Hey, welcome in everybody to Mindfully Restored. You have found this podcast because you're trying to keep it together, or because you're building something, or maybe because you're carrying pressure that nobody sees. Or how about because you've been smiling in public but unraveling in private? You are in the right place. This show isn't a show where we pretend that everything is fine. This is a show about rebuilding from the inside out. So today I want to tell you why this exists, why I'm doing it, what you can expect when you come back next week, next episode. My name is Mitch Zembik. I am a husband, I am a father, and I am an entrepreneur. I've spent a lot of my life now in environments where you're expected to be tough. You solve problems, you lead, provide, and you just keep moving. I learned something along the way, the hard way. You can be strong and still be struggling. You can be successful and still feel like you're losing inside. You can love your family deeply, still feel exhausted, numb, anxious, or even burned out. This podcast is for people building a life while quietly fighting their own mind while they build it. What Mindfully Restored is, it's a place for real stories, mine and others, about mental health, resilience, entrepreneurship, leadership, marriage, fatherhood, motherhood, identity, and purpose, but not in a fake motivational way, not just in the just think positive kind of way. We've all heard that. In a real way, because mental health isn't a quote and it's certainly not a trend. It's something that you can't fix in a weekend. It can be complicated. It can be painful. And if you've been through it, then you know how lonely it can feel, especially when you're the one who everyone relies on. So this show exists to make sure you don't have to do that lonely part alone. A foundation is not going to hide. Before I go further, I want to lay something down clearly for you. My foundation is faith. Now, I'm not saying that you have to believe what I believe to get value from this podcast. You don't. But I'm also not going to pretend that faith wasn't something that carried me through some of the most difficult seasons in my life when I didn't think I would survive. There were moments when discipline wasn't enough. My motivation wasn't enough. And even success just simply wasn't enough. But faith, prayer, and clinging to that hope when I didn't feel strong, that's what kept me moving forward. So you will hear faith on this show, not as a weapon, not as a performance, most certainly, and not as a pressure, just as part of the truth of how I have rebuilt to this point and continue to rebuild. Because faith for me isn't a topic, it's the foundation. It's what I came to when my mind was too loud or my chest was tight, when I couldn't sleep, when I felt like I was failing, and when nobody else could see it. It's not that faith made those hard times disappear. It's that faith gave me something to hold on to when I couldn't hold myself together. Now, there were seasons where my prayers were not polished. They sounded a little more like, God help me. God, please give me strength. God, don't let me lose my family in the process of building this future. And I'm saying that out loud because I know some of you feel the same way too. You believe, but you're tired. You have faith, but you're scared. You want to trust God, but you're carrying too much to even think straight. If that's you, you're not disqualified. You're human. And if you don't share my beliefs, I still want you here because the goal of this show is not to divide people. The goal is to tell the truth, to help people heal and help people rebuild. So when you hear me talk about faith, just hear it as an honest testimony, not as a requirement, but part of my story. So, why the name Mindfully Restored matters to me, the name is intentional. I come from the restoration world, a world that deals with damage, water damage, mold, asbestos, structural issues, disaster cleanup. These are the things that people don't want to talk about until it's unavoidable. But if you think about it, that's what happens inside of people. We get hit with stress, we take on pressure, we absorb trauma. Now, sometimes it's slowly, and then there's other times where it all just hits at once. But we keep going, even when we might be leaking on the inside. So, here's some of the things I've seen in restoration. Damage doesn't always show immediately, right? Sometimes it hides behind walls. Sometimes it spreads silently without anyone knowing. And it can look fine from the outside on the surface, but everything inside is deteriorating. That's the metaphor. In restoration, someone calls because there's maybe a stain on your ceiling or a musty smell that you can't explain, or something just feels off. And sometimes it looks like, oh, this is a small issue, no big deal, right? It actually can turn into a long term problem, right? A slow leak behind the wall, moisture that sat too long, a problem that ignored because life was too busy. But when you open it up, the truth is it was bigger than the surface showed. And that goes back to people as well. Sometimes that symptom looks like anger or shutting down, overworking. My favorite, and not my favorite, but something I'm famous for, is snapping at the ones I love, or feeling numb when I should feel grateful for what's happening or what I have. Usually those symptoms mean something deeper is at play: pressure, fear, unprocessed pain, burnout. This show is about choosing to face what's behind the wall without shame and learning how to rebuild with intention. Now, it's not going to be perfect nor instant, but it needs to be honest. And that's why I use the word mindfully. The silent leak in restoration, the scariest damage isn't always the dramatic stuff, right? It's not a flood in your home, water running down the staircase. It's the silent leak, the kind that doesn't just flood the room, it just keeps dripping quietly, day after day. And eventually it warps the structure. That's what chronic stress does. That's what unresolved anxiety does. That's what unspoken grief does. It doesn't always knock you down in the moment. Sometimes it slowly reshapes you into someone you don't even recognize. And you don't notice it because you're still functioning. You're still working, still showing up every day and giving your all. But inside, you're just simply not okay. Here's what makes it even harder. When you're the provider or the leader, the one people call on first, you get this sense of belief that you don't have permission to struggle. There's no time for that. You think to yourself, if I stop, everything's going to fall apart. If I'm honest, maybe I'll scare everyone away. And if I'm strong enough to admit that I'm not okay, I may look weak. So you cope that way by controlling, by trying to just stay busy, right? Stay productive. You cope by staying distracted with things. And then we wonder why we feel numb. Numbness is what happens when your nervous system gets tired of screaming at you. One of the biggest goals of this podcast and this show is to help you catch yourself earlier, not by guilt, not with shame, but just awareness. Because awareness is where restoration starts. So I want you to pay attention to three things that can be warning signs. Okay, let me give you three common warning signs a silent leak might be happening in your life. One, you're constantly tired, even when you get enough sleep. Not just physically tired, though. You're mentally tired, emotionally tired. Like your brain is always running in the background and just never shuts off. Two, you're more reactive than you used to be. Some of those small things that you normally wouldn't react to negatively feel huge. You snap faster at people, you shut down, you end up not even recognizing yourself and the reactions that you have. And number three, you're losing your sense of enjoyment. Everything can look good on paper, but yet you feel disconnected from it. You're present, but you're not present. You're grateful and you have this wonderful life, but you can't feel it. So if any of those hit you, I'm not telling you that you're broken. I'm telling you that you're human and you might need some restoration too. Because restoration in life isn't just cleaning up the damage. It's learning how to notice the warning signs maybe a little earlier. It's learning how to respond instead of react. It's learning how to rebuild patterns and not just always fixing the problems or the aftermath. So it's learning how to lead yourself before you try and lead everyone else. So the vision and mission in plain language for Mindfully Restored, the vision to create a powerful space where real stories of mental health resilience, personal transformation, and entrepreneurial growth help people heal, grow, and thrive. Our mission, Mindfully Restored, is a podcast platform for honest, grounded conversation and practical frameworks around the mental battles people don't see, the leadership pressures people don't understand, and the process of rebuilding a life with purpose at home, at work, and most importantly, internally. The heartbeat is simple. If you're in a hard season, I want you to hear something that just makes you say, okay, this isn't just me. The value behind the show is authenticity, real, honest, raw conversations, no filter, no fluff. Empowering you not by hype, not by fake confidence, but real strength built through truth and action. You need community because isolation makes everything worse. Connections is what makes healing possible. Healing, not fix yourself, but healing that respects the process. Grow through some vulnerability because the things that we hide are often the exact things that keep us stuck. Now, I want this to be fun, but also serious. It doesn't mean we have to be dead, though. We need to keep the energy alive. So, who is this for? This show is for the business owner that can't shut their brain off at night, for the mom or dad who feels like they're carrying the world and just doesn't know how to say it, for the husband or wife who wants to be present but just feels emotionally maxed out, or for the high performer who can solve everyone else's problems but maybe not their own, or for the person who has faith but still struggles, or just simply doesn't know what they believe anymore but wants some hope. And I want to say this clearly. You don't have to be at rock bottom to take mental health seriously. You don't have to wait until you explode or freak out. You don't have to wait until you lose something or everything for that matter. You don't have to wait until people notice. Restoration works best the earlier that you address the damage. Now, I'm going to share my story with you over time, not in one episode, not all at once, because this podcast is not one that's built on a shock value. But I will tell you this, I know what it's like to be that person that everyone relies on and to still feel like you're breaking. I know what it's like to chase that growth, responsibility, and providing, and one day realize you're simply not okay. But to everyone else, you've been pretending that you are. And I'm going to unpack that in detail, piece by piece, because real restoration doesn't happen in one moment. It happens when you start telling the truth, noticing patterns, and rebuilding what's been missing. Because you can't restore what you won't reveal. And if that sentence hits you, it probably means that you're holding on to something too, something you don't talk about, something that maybe you've just normalized, something you keep pushing down because you're afraid of what happens if you finally admit that it's real. This is a safe place to admit that, not to stay there. I don't want you to drown in it, but to start rebuilding. Now, here's something that I've learned. Some of the most dangerous mental health seasons that I've experienced are the ones where I'm still productive. You may relate. The world still claps for you, even while you're quietly drowning. So I want to make you a promise. This show is not going to glamorize burnout. We don't celebrate grind culture as if it's a virtue. This show will not call numbness strength. We're going to talk about what real strength actually is. Real strength is telling the truth, being honest, and asking for help, talking about what we need. Real strength is being present with your family, even when your mind wants to run. Now, faith plays a part here for me too, because the deeper I've gone in my journey, the more that I've realized I was never meant to carry everything alone. I'm not meant to be my own savior. I'm not meant to prove my worth through grind or exhaustion. Faith has helped me put language to that. It has helped me to remember that I'm human before a provider. I'm a husband before I'm a businessman. I'm a father before I'm any title. Now, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, and I'm still rebuilding because no one's perfect. If you're someone who wants to explore faith or rebuild your faith, or you're just curious, I want to invite you to walk with me. No pressure, no shame, just an open door. The entrepreneur pressure is real. Now, I want to talk directly to the person who relates to that silent leak because a lot of times the leak doesn't show up as sadness. It does show up as pressure. It'll show up as I just can't relax. I can't turn my brain off at night. I can't fall asleep. I don't feel safe unless I'm fully in control. Or maybe you're just waiting for the next problem to arise. And if you're an entrepreneur, then it can be even louder. Your mind is never just off. There's still payroll, there's still clients, reputation, reviews, equipment, and most importantly, employees. And then there's the weight of every decision that you make. And when you go home, that's not just a switch that turns off. You're stacking another life on top of the first one. Yet you're trying to be present, trying to be patient, trying to be kind, but you're still at work. And then you feel guilty that you're not more present, that you don't feel happier or more grateful for where you are and what you have. So our response, usually push harder. Just tell yourself, just a little bit longer, we'll get there. But here's the truth. Just a little longer is a trap when you don't have a plan to restore, because life will always give you another reason to delay your healing. Now, that's why this show is going to talk about rhythms, not perfect routines or unrealistic rituals, but rhythms, small, repeatable things that protect your mind and your relationships. Because you don't rise to the level of your intentions, you fall to the level of your systems. So when I say we're going to rebuild, I'm talking about rebuilding how you live, rebuilding how you think, how you respond, how you rest, how you process, and probably one of the more important, how you communicate. And all of this will result in how you lead. So here's one simple concept that you hear on this show a lot. Restoration is not just removing what's bad, it's rebuilding what's missing. Sometimes what's missing is rest. Maybe it's boundaries. Maybe it's that community that you need. Simply being honest with yourself or others. And sometimes it's just the ability to feel. Faith is where hope has been rebuilt for me. Not because my circumstances were always good. I assure you they weren't. But because my foundation wasn't my circumstances, and I don't want to allow them to be any further. My foundation is God. And again, I'm not saying that as a bumper sticker. I'm saying it as survival. There were times where I felt like I was failing, and faith reminded me that my value wasn't measured by my output. There are times where I feel alone, and faith reminded me that I'm not alone. There's times where my mind is racing, and faith gave me a place to bring it. Not perfectly, not eloquently, but just honestly. And if you're listening and your faith feels weak or messy, or you don't even know what to believe, I'm telling you, you're welcome here. One practical tool that we can use for this week is going to be the 2-minute check. It's going to take 2 minutes, no journaling, no fancy system, just answers 3 questions. What is it that I'm feeling right now? What is that trying to tell me? And what is one healthy next step? That's it. Because a lot of us were never taught how to name what we feel or to talk about what it is that we're experiencing. We were taught how to perform, how to provide, how to be fine. But naming it is powerful because what you can name, then you can face. And what you can face, you can restore. That's what we're going to do together, one honest step at a time. Now, I want to go over something that I like to call the listener agreement. This is how we're going to do this together. 1, we're going to tell the truth, especially when it's uncomfortable. 2, we will never compare pain. Your individual struggle counts, even if someone else may have it worse. 3, we're not here to romanticize suffering or to harp on suffering. We're here to honor the process, but at the end of the day, we choose growth. We don't do this alone. Okay? Isolation is not a flex. Community is where our strength is. Number 5 is we're going to take action. It's not going to be perfect. It will not be an overnight transformation, but it's going to be small, honest steps that will compound over time. That is the heart of Mindfully Restored. Now, what you can expect from this show is going to be real conversations, no pretending, practical tools, but not medical advice. This is not therapy replacement. It's simply a framework that can help you lead and live with clarity and more stability. We're going to talk about things like how to recognize some warning signs, how to respond to that anxiety, and how to lead when you're tired. We're going to build rhythms that protect your mind. We're going to learn how to communicate even when you're feeling overwhelmed. And we're going to learn how to rebuild after failure. There will be guests coming, business owners, leaders, parents, people who have fought these real mental battles, just like you and I, and have rebuilt. And we will go deep, but we won't stay heavy all the time because healing needs honesty and it also needs breathing. Now, something that's an important thing to go over for me, I am not a medical doctor. I'm not a doctor at all. I'm not a therapist. And this show is not a substitute for professional help. But it is a place where the truth will get spoken. And sometimes the first step towards getting help is realizing that you are allowed to talk about. And if you're listening right now, and maybe you're in a dark place, maybe you're struggling, I want you to hear me clearly. You absolutely matter. You are not a burden, and you don't have to do this alone. You can always reach out to someone you trust, get professional help if needed. So here's my invitation to all of you. If you've been carrying a lot, and if you've been trying to be strong for everyone, pushing through, but you're just exhausted, I want you to stay with me. We're going to talk about the real stuff here, the pressures, the fears, the expectations, and the way you rebuild into someone stronger, not hardened, but stronger. Here's what I'd love for you to do after this episode. I want you to notice something that maybe resonated with you. Notice something maybe that made you uncomfortable, or even if it's something that made you feel seen. Take a couple minutes and do a quick check in with yourself. What am I carrying right now? What am I avoiding? Maybe I need something and I haven't admitted it yet. And if you want to take one simple step this week, try this. Pick an honest sentence, just one. Say it aloud, either to yourself or someone that you know you can trust. I am carrying more than I admit. I've been anxious and I simply don't know why. Or maybe I'm not okay and I need support. I need your help. I'm tired of pretending. One honest sentence like these often is where restoration begins. So, next episode, I'm going to start telling more of my story. Again, not all of it, but the beginning of what shaped me, what broke me, and what started the rebuilding. So, if this episode hit you, I want you to share it with someone who's quietly fighting. Now, if you're the one who is quietly fighting, I'm really glad you're here. I'm praying for you, not performative, but real. That you have the strength, not only for today, but the clarity for your next step and the courage to just be honest. This is Mindfully Restored, and we're just getting started.